to Relieved with Romy. Assalamu alaikum, Romy. Welcome.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. All good, alhamdulillah. And we're all ready for a very juicy topic, this one. Because I mean, I can only speak on behalf of women. So I think our talk is probably going to speak from our perspective. But, this applies to everyone. But we're pretty good at getting resentful sometimes. And we're not realizing we're doing it to ourselves and that we can undo it ourselves, which is where the relieved bit comes in. And so what we're going to unpack today is what's really going on. So, Romy, when we're feeling resentful, I mean, there's many different reasons we get resentful, but one particularly in our relationships, particularly in our family, comes up. Do you want to share what that is?
So, yes. So, one of the relationships that we get really caught into needing to fix, and is between when we get in the middle between two people in our families, sometimes the husband and our kids, or sometimes even the kids, that we need to interfere, and we need to fix, we need to control, and that's when we get into, and then we get this resentment with them if they are arguing, or if they're doing something that doesn't fit, or that is going to bring us that work that we need to do, because we think we need to do that work to fix things. I hope that came out the right way.
So we're trying closer to the Wi-Fi. I'm trying to hide from noisy kids, and my hiding spot doesn't have good reception. Let me see if it's better over here. Okay, yeah, so we believe, well, we're going to have a dodgy sort of halo around me, but anyway, we'll deal with that. We believe that it's our responsibility to help everybody feel good. And if somebody in the family says or does something to set something off, we get resentful because it's like, oh, now you're making more work for me because I have to fix things. I have to help that person feel better. And like, we're taking responsibility for everybody's feelings in the family. And that's where the resentment comes in, because it's like, if anybody says or does something to upset the apple cart, we get frustrated and resentful because, oh, now I have to fix it. Oh, now I have to intervene. Now it's more work. And then we spend a lot of time in between those times trying to make sure no one says or does something that's going to set it off, right? So maybe for some families, maybe it's a case of dad expects the kids to be a particular way, and so mom's putting all this effort into making sure the kids behave exactly how dad wants, so dad doesn't get set off. And so then when the kids do the normal kids things kids do, and dad gets set off, then there's resentment to the kids for setting dad off, and now I have to sort that out, or vice versa, like that the children are particularly feeling a bit off, and you don't want dad to yell at them about the small things because there's some bigger things going on, and then dad yells at them for the small things, and so then it's like resentment towards dad. Oh, now you've made my job harder. With the kids, it was already hard enough. Now you've made it harder, and that's where the resentment builds up, doesn't it?
Yeah. So after everyone trying to manage what they're doing or what they're not doing to set the other people off, and that's a lot of work because you'd be exhausted.
Yeah, it is exhausting. So not only is there resentment, there is a sense of tiredness, and I think that's where the resentment builds up, because it's like, look, everybody, just stay.
Give me a break.
Give me a break. Give me a break from all these feelings everyone's having, right? Because I can't keep up with fixing them.
Yep. And
So
subhanallah, we don't need to be doing that.
yeah, exactly. So that's where the relieved part comes in, doesn't it, Romy?
Mhm.
When we realize it doesn't work like that.
Yep. We don't
So
need to. Yeah.
why doesn't it work like that? Because I'm sure some of the people who are listening to us will be going, yeah, but it's going to be a problem if I don't do that. Yeah, right?
Yep. Well, I think when we realize that it's we don't actually need to be managing or controlling everything. We don't need to be fixing things. We can yeah, we can just let go of that, and then you get that relief from. So it's basically we need to realize that we have some thinking going on that we need, that it means that we need to be fixing things, that if
Mm,
we don't do it, things are gonna go, if we're not controlling and managing, things are gonna go really wrong.
mm,
And we're not giving that space for people to actually, okay, you want to have your feelings, you want to be upset with each other, or to solve their own issues, in a relationship. And subhanallah, I've been in both sides, when I used to try to control it, and then it gave me all this resentment, and it gave me all this work. And now I'm in the side when, okay, let's see what happens. I don't have to. When I learned, okay, I don't really have to. And now I just observe and see what happens. And I have perfectly um, human beings at home that are very able to solve their own problems.
mm,
And it's just, that's where the relief comes from too. Like, when you say, okay, alhamdulillah, I'm giving them a chance. I don't have to be always in the middle. I don't have to be always fixing. I don't have to be always managing. And it works. They can do it themselves, and um they're very capable. And I think that's something that we also don't trust when we try to manage so much and control so much, that they actually are capable of solving their own issues.
I think the other thing is not understanding the concept of where feelings come from. And the big sense of relief comes from understanding that everyone is having their feelings through their own thought in the
Hmm.
moment. And so that means actually we're not responsible for each other's feelings. We're responsible for showing up in the way that's pleasing to Allah. If we're pleasing to Allah, then we're not doing anything to intentionally harm or hurt people, because that wouldn't be pleasing to Allah, right? So that means that if somebody has upset feelings, then it's not because of us, it's because they've got upset thoughts. So
Hmm.
they're perceiving the situation in an upset way. And when we come to understand that, you start to realize, hang on a minute, I can't jump into someone's brain and rewire their thinking. So
Yep.
it's not my responsibility to
Hmm.
manage people's feelings. And
Yep.
that's like when I realized that, that was the biggest relief ever.
Mm.
And so freeing from all the resentment that I was hanging on to.
Yes, subhanallah. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And as you said, it opens the opportunity for people to figure out their own healthy relationships. When we're in the middle, we actually create a lot of muddle, and
Modeling, yeah.
yeah, we muddle things. We make things worse.
Because we bring in our own thinking as well in the picture, and now we have three people instead of two trying to solve their own.
Yeah,
Subhanallah.
and I think one of the tricky things being a mom and going back to like dad and the children and navigating everybody's feelings, because I think mums often feel responsible for trying to keep everyone in the family happy, um, is realizing firstly, how resilient children are if they understand what's going on. And so, if we hold space for them to have their feelings, but also give them a really honest, not doubt putting dad down because we don't want to disconnect them from their father, but an honest human explanation of how feelings work, then they'll just go, oh, dad's just having some really angry thoughts and feelings right now. And they won't take it so personally.
Mm. Yeah,
And
even frustration, if you explain like, okay, that is a bit frustrated right now, maybe, the things that he might say, they might be not, they might it's not upset you, but they might, you might not like. But once
mm,
he calms down or when he feels better, he'll think different. Mm,
mm.
yeah, he'll act different.
And I think kids are very clever. Like
Mm,
they pick these things up very quickly. You can also get them to remember a time when they got angry and said things that they didn't really mean, so that
mhm,
they can understand how it works and go, oh, okay. And when kids are let off the hook of being responsible for our feelings, they actually thrive even if the adults are getting a bit messed up.
mm, yeah,
And vice versa, when we're not caught up in this resentment, we're able to tackle, because it might not be dads. I mean, I hear, people struggling with grandparents or other adults, teachers, with their children, that we're able to still have a loving and compassionate approach to that adult instead of a resentful, angry approach of how could you do that, or what's wrong
mm,
with you, that sort of thing. We're able to come to them and go, I just want to share with you just the other side and how the kids are experiencing your behavior. And that can really help adults see things from the other perspective and perhaps find better ways.
yeah. So, when the adult is sincere, they also understand. Um, we have to find the right time and the right mood for them to, when to approach them. But then they'll understand because, yeah, I remember going to my husband when if he's not thinking right, and probably maybe frustration, whatever he's experiencing, and then I will just go back to him and say, but I think it might be if you see it this way, or it might be this way, or what about
Mm,
you? We think about it in a different way. It sometimes it's like, oh, it's like a bulb turns on, and I was like, I never thought of it this way, and it just
mm,
changes the whole situation.
yeah. Sometimes they're not even aware of some of the things that are going on for the kids. And so they see the behavior and see the behavior as problematic. But when we're able to calmly say, well, did you realize that this happened today? And that's why they
Mm,
weren't so keen to do the dishes, or, because they had a lot of feelings going on. And then that can help the other adults approach the kids in a more constructive way, rather than jump to the conclusion that they're being disobedient or disrespectful or resistant, to
mm,
our instructions, because they're little human beings. They have bad days too. And when we have a bad day, we don't like being told what to do, or we feel reluctant to do things that we don't enjoy doing.
yeah.
And they're the same. And with a little bit of compassion and understanding, the peace comes back. But what's coming back to the resentful to relieved, our experience of all of this is completely different, isn't it,
Mhm,
Romy? Like,
yes.
just perhaps you can explain how different it is for you now.
So yeah, like before, I used to feel like I have to get in the middle, interfere. There was a really sense of danger if I don't get in the middle and fix it and do my bit. But now I can just yeah, I can just allow people to have their own says and to have their own to reach their own conclusion of I can actually sit back and observe the process of how, with the right time, with the right space, they actually figured it out themselves. They get there. They manage to explain themselves, and especially if they have goodwill, both of them. Um,
Mm,
and I'm talking about like specifically a teen and a dad that are not getting on really really well. They can actually buy maybe back and forth in with that goodwill reach to a place where they actually understand each other. When if I used to get in the middle and I used to meddle things like you said, and I
mm,
used to have all this pressure on myself, and now I'm just like, no, I have this trust, I have this, okay, they can solve it. It's not my It's not my responsibility, basically. And I'm more peaceful, and I don't need to get into, into their ways
Mm.
and make more
If we
trouble,
break if
maybe.
we break it if we break it down technically, I could think it will help people understand how crazy it is to get in the middle. So a relationship is actually what exists between two people, right?
Mhm.
We as a third person aren't a part of that relationship. That relationship is what is between those two people, good or bad, whatever it looks like. It's what's between those two people. Now, those two people are both having that relationship through their own thinking.
Yes.
And so when they're thinking when they've got high level good willed thinking about each other, the relationship's working well. When there's low level thinking about each other, the relationship is a bit messed up and things can go a bit AWOL.
Yep.
Now, how can we believe as a third person with our own thinking and our own perceptions where we don't even actually know, we think we know, but we don't know what
Mhm.
each of the other two people's thinking are, think that we can come in the middle and fix this thing that's between them?
Exactly. Doesn't make
It's like,
sense.
yeah, no, we can we can encourage goodwill. I think that's what our role is to
Hmm.
encourage goodwill, encourage high level thinking,
Yeah.
and point out low level thinking. And that's with each individual separately, but not be in the middle, um,
Hmm.
trying to steer their ship. It's their ship, and we're trying to steer it.
Yes. Subhanallah. And it's true, I have had those conversations with the two separate parties, and explain to them, exactly what it looks like. If you're not in a good mood, you're gonna react this way, or if you think in that way, that negative way, or your negative thoughts are gonna affect that, and then things are not gonna work as well as you might want. And if you decided to have that conversation, then
Mm. Yeah. So, I hope this has given food for thought to people who are feeling like they're stuck in the middle, possibly feeling a bit resentful for being stuck there, resentful that relationships aren't working out the way they are, and realizing that there is the opportunity to feel relieved when we truly understand how human experience works,
mm,
which is why, Romy and I both understand this and get this, is because, for years now, we've been learning about our human experience, alhamdulillah. And so we'd love to invite you to all join us in this learning so that you can have um, a more peaceful environment, that you don't have to be in the middle of relationships, that you can feel the relief rather than resentment, despite people in your family maybe having difficult relationships. You can be a really constructive um, help in the situation rather than an hindrance. So if that is something that is interesting to you, then I'd love to invite you to join our Back to the Fitrah Inner Circle, where during Ramadan you can save $200. So for $290, you can have lifetime access to the Inner Circle, where Romy's one of the mentors in there running sessions. Your sessions are on parenting, aren't they? So
parenting, and yeah,
yeah,
and relationships in the
yes.
masterclass.
And yeah, so Romy mostly does her master classes on relationships and her Q&As and support sessions on parenting. But we have so many other experts in there covering different topics like stress and anxiety and just any general emotional topics. So you get live support. There's 4 to 5 sessions every single week that you can attend. On top of that, then also the education that you need to understand this human experience, mapped out in a way that's easy to understand and very much in alignment with our Islamic principles. So if that sounds like something of interest, this is the time to join, because, as I said, lifetime access. We're here for you, meaning you can attend live sessions for as long as you want. It's not lifetime access as in, okay, after a year, that's it, you don't get to join anything. You can join for as long as you want, because we believe everybody deserves support. Everybody needs support, and we need these supportive structures in place in our ummah. So, Romy, any last thoughts you'd like to share with them around this topic of resentful, resentful to relieved? So I was trying to get my head around it again.
I would say that any age, from our little kids to our teens and adults, even once you realize that it's not your responsibility, that you can actually step back and sort of allow them to have that relationship, and also if you see that they're not doing very well, especially with little kids, just try to get separate the adults, or in when he's in a good mood, when he's in a good state of mind, and try to explain the situation, and that the kids, they don't mean it sometimes, they have their own things. Yeah, it's just that can help change the whole dynamic, and the understanding, that try understanding our thinking, understanding where our feelings come from. That is a game changer.
And the key thing is that we're actually getting it ourselves in the moment, that we're doing that from a place of wisdom, of inner calm and peace, not from a place of resentment and
Hmm.
frustration. That's
Yes.
where it works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair, Romy. It's been a fantastic discussion. I think very fruitful for many. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, everyone, for being here. Make sure you share with us your takeaways. We want to hear your takeaways, right? Share your takeaways, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.